So today we'll be solving this Leetcode problem called twosome. So the question says, given an array of integers num and integer target, return indices of the two number such that they add up to target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution. You may not use the same element twice. You can return the answer in any order. So, reading the question, we know that our input is arrays of numbers and a target. And it says our output is array that has two indices of the elements that add up to the target. Okay, for constraint, we'll just write it as optimize. And for edge case, we could have a case that the nums array could be empty. In that case, we would just return an empty array. But in here, it says that you may assume that each input would have exactly one solution. So that might mean that our nums array might not be empty, but just in case, I'm going to say nums array could be empty. So I am thinking is that for this one, we could create an empty object for now, and what we would do is we would iterate over the array, and with each iteration we'll ask if the target, which is 9 in this example, if target minus the element exists in our object. So for the first round, our object is empty, so there's nothing there. So that would mean the statement is false. So in that case, what we would do is we'll pass in the element as a key and the index as a value to our object. But in case it is true that the element, the difference between the 9 and element already exists in our object, will return the index of the target minus the element and the index of the element we're currently iterating. So like let's take example 7. So let's say we already put in the 2 inside our object. So in our second round for the 7, if we do target 9 minus 7, we would get 2. So for our second iteration, we would get true that the difference between the 9 and the element 7 already exists in our object, since we have already put in the 2 inside the object. In that case, we would basically return the current index that we're on, and also we return the element, which is 9 minus 2 index, which is the first one. So that would be our answer. So let's write down our code. So the way we are doing it is we're gonna create a variable. Let's say let target found equals to empty object, and in this case I'm going to use the for loop. So it's going to be nums.length I++. So we're using the for loop because I would need to track down the index as well. So we're starting with the index 0 and incrementing by 1 until we reach our limit. Okay, so what you're gonna do is let's assign a variable let. Actually, I'm going to rename this. So I'm gonna call this key value. And here I'm going to call this, let's say target found. So this one, it would be target minus nums I. So I'm going to say if target found in key values, then what we're going to do is return I, and then we need to find the index of the target found, which will be target found. And if not, we'll just write else statement and say if that's not the case, we'll just pass in the key value pair like this. So in here it will be nums I equals to I. Then at the end, oh, we already did the return statement there, so we don't need to return anything. So let's run and see how it goes. Oops. Okay, so I have error somewhere. Okay. Key values is not defined. Okay, so I spelled it wrong. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, this test case is passed. Let's submit the code to see if we miss any test cases. Okay, cool. So that's how you would solve this problem. So in here we are basically only iterating each element once and putting it inside the object once. So in this case we would have O of n runtime and also O of n space complexity.